Well, hey, Alex, thank you so much for joining today. I'd like to welcome Alex Trufin, founder of TruRecruit, right? I think that's
Yes.
probably a play on your name, TRU.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Alex, you've been a great Honeit customer for a while now, and we like to learn about kind of the state of recruiting. So we've been starting these kind of conversations to one, get to know your business, learn a little bit more about you, and kind of peek into that talent lens that you're seeing. Right, 2021 is kind of an interesting time, right, in terms of demand and supply, and where
Yeah.
the role fits in. But I'd love to maybe start it off with how you got into recruitment. Not everybody knows about this industry. How did you get into recruiting?
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, thanks, Nick, for having me on. And I got to tell you, about 4 years ago, I didn't even know recruiters were a thing. I mean, I've gotten emails, and corporate recruiters, I would say, or talent acquisition, or HR people, but I didn't realize like recruitment firms actually existed. It's funny, when I first started getting into the business, my family doesn't even know how I got paid or how I made money. So it was just kind of funny, like, what is it that you do? And it was just hard to explain. So it's just funny that you mentioned that. So just a quick story. I worked for a major retailer, Best Buy, for about 15 years, and was actually their general manager, and doing a lot of the hiring, onboarding. I had a couple buddies that were in the industry that I'm in, which is construction, and they were always looking for good talent. And we did hiring fairs locally. We did all kinds of different advertising just to acquire some good talent, more or less, and figure out why they would want to work for us and the company. And so we had some success, and I started doing it on the side. And then a couple of years ago, my store actually got hit with a tornado, so it kind of helped me. It kind of helped push the envelope on the recruiting industry. So I actually ended up working for a actual recruitment firm, and I did that for a while and realized that I had more candidates than they could employ, quite honestly. And I know that's when you and I had met, and we were talking, and I did a lot of research, and YouTube was a great tool for me. And sometimes you could get lost into those YouTube videos because they kind of make you feel like you could do anything, so you got to be kind of careful there. But we decided to kind of open my little office. It's a 10 by 20 room. It's nothing crazy. I got some internet and a little coffee maker and a laptop with a dock, and I bought a little USB recording device from Amazon for like $25 with a USB headset, and just with some of the software that I had, and just started recruiting, and I'll tell you, the hardest part to me was, it was easier for me to place the candidates because I got to know them, but it was really hard for me to overcome some of the clients aspect of it too, and so
Yep.
that
Yeah, in
was
terms of getting new recs or getting new clients, that kind of thing.
well, just I really didn't spend much time thinking about, I was like, oh, I can place X amount here and here, but I didn't realize, like, I'm also the one now having to go get that client versus working for someone that was already my client,
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, and I think that's fascinating because a lot of the career profession that I've seen, that I went through, or that I typically, the pattern that I see would be, someone stumbles into recruitment, works at an external recruiting firm, and then kind of goes in-house,
Right.
from agency recruiter to corporate recruiter, and then there's a lot of like learnings there, and you're like, oh, interesting. You're not, you maybe on a salary versus a commission, so that
Right.
maybe like stress goes down a little bit. But then you've got, you're working directly with hiring managers that you can't fire, right? Like you've
Sure.
got to figure out a way to work with them, even if it's difficult,
Right.
and you can't just work on another client's recs and say, I'm not going to work with that hiring manager. So there's these other kind of professional learnings that you get when you go in-house. I think what's fascinating for you is because you were in-house as a TA leader when we met, and then you started your own external agency. So you kind of went the other direction. Talk to me a little bit about, you alluded to having more candidates than roles or recs, let's say, But
Yeah.
what are some of the other learnings you've had as now an entrepreneur in this recruitment world? And not only that, which is challenging, but in a climate that we've never really seen, right? The dynamics have shifted. Is it easier to get clients now maybe than it was before COVID? Is it harder? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah. So yeah, obviously a lot of information there, but basically in this crazy world that we live in, um, specifically my industry, which is construction, we do anything from laborers, carpenters, superintendents, electricians, safety directors, stripers, project managers, you name it. They are all on fire going, hey, we have all these projects and, we have a limited amount of candidates that are available or that are willing to hear us out. So, I've talked to a lot that have, in the past maybe have not used a recruitment firm that are now reaching out to the industry just because of what COVID did and what the pandemic kind of shifted on what companies can do on really for them to be flexible or not. These days of working 9 to 5 are kind of gone, for sure. And most companies have to kind of really embrace the challenge and change for them to kind of move forward. Especially the clients that I work with, they're willing to go, okay, what do you recommend? And they're actually looking to us as data, because we talk to all these candidates day in and day out. And, I'll tell you whether, because I specialize in travel commercial construction as well. So people being on the road a lot and, the pandemic, that was really difficult and scary for me, but the phone never stopped ringing. And that was kind of exciting for sure. But I think balancing, to answer your question, balancing, not overextending yourself, was difficult, but definitely, needing and having family support, because in recruiting, as you know, Nick, it's not, like I said, it's not a 9 to 5. A lot of my guys and gals are, they work at night. They sleep during the day. So, I couldn't.
So you're doing second and third shift type works, and things like that. Okay.
Yeah. And so, being flexible again, I might not have a schedule from 9 to noon, but I might have calls from 4 to 9, so I can meet them where they're at, because, I need them just as much as they need me type thing, and so making myself available for them was definitely crucial for starting.
You got to open up your availability for later hours in the day and things like that, so people can book calls with you on time. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, do you typically staff projects, projects 6 months here on an assignment for a builder, or is it
so it's permanent work,
full-time placements? Okay,
it's full-time placements. Okay. I've thought about some of the temp staffing and things like that. But honestly, again, those are one of the things I've learned myself. Like, I think anyone starting, a new recruitment firm, they have to stick with one niche at first, because it's really easy for you to, be online, be on YouTube, follow, podcasts, for instance, and you hear success here and people here, but really you just kind of dabble into it. And, I wouldn't say easier is always the better. I know everyone right now is doing like IT developers and, personnel and things like that. But, do what makes you passionate, because you're on the phone, making these highlights. That's how you exist, and so when you're making a placement, these candidates trust you to kind of follow what they're needing, and so again, it's very delicate to go, hey, I have a candidate that meets the client's, qualifications versus just sending a bunch of, resumes and profiles for you to just, make a placement. But, really, I found where when you take the time to really do the work up front and really talk to the candidate about the client, or, really what the candidate is looking for and why they're looking and all of that, it makes it such an easier transition to where you're not needing 10 or 15 people to place one role. You might only need one or two. And in my experience, they've hired those one or two automatically, even though they needed one, and so that's where our success is coming from is, I only have a select few clients. They're hiring, the 3 or 4 that I'm probably 80% placement. When you're talking on the phone with me, I'll place you 80% of the time.
I mean, what more could you want as a recruiter? I mean, it's a heck of a ratio. What do you chalk that up to, though? I mean, I love that, you've alluded to this like twice so far in this conversation around getting to know the candidate and what they want, right? In terms of aspirations potentially, or, okay, I'll take this job, but what I really want, so call me back in a couple of years when it's probably those kind of relationships that you're building with people.
Well, exactly. I've actually had that happen where they're like, hey, I'm good. I'm happy where I'm at. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, company just lost their contract here. I'm ready, and so just because that you're not making a placement right then and there, or they're saying they're not interested, they have their info. And so we always have, and this is where kind of AI has been helping me as well, not to replace the human aspect of it, but just to kind of really put in like, hey, like this is our information. This is where you can get a hold of us. This is our website. This is our appointment Honeit link. This is our, schedule time. And, I'll tell you, we've had to adapt from, just calling and emailing to like texting right now has been really big for us because a lot of specifically around our candidates, like there's a lot of spam calls, right? And so
they don't pick up. They don't even just pick up.
They don't even pick up. It goes automatically to voicemail, right? Which makes sense. I have the robocall, but like, iPhones and Androids, they have those built in now with a little setting. And so, it definitely makes sense because you're getting calls from, who knows what now. And so, following up with just a, quick, respectful text message of like, hey, this is who we are. And I always put our website in there so they understand, like, I'm not a scammer or anything like that. See your face. And, that definitely helps out. I think that's what's helped our transition and again, changing and I'll tell you the reason why we started doing that is because our candidates started telling us that like, hey, I'm not available, but you could catch me better if you just text me or whatever. Okay. And then we started doing that.
That's great insight. And your candidates are everywhere. They're on projects, they're on site, they're working third shifts, like text they can get back to when it's convenient. I like that.
Right.
But it's interesting because we always hear about this, the automation versus engagement. It's kind of this common theme. Like, for the last 10 years, you would imagine a profession, say construction, a lot of staffing firms have been trying to remove the conversation through chatbots or one-way video tools, and they're not getting to know the candidates like you are. Do you think is that one of your competitive advantages that you are taking the time to have a 10 to 15 minute phone call, still building trust?
I'll tell you why, because these candidates have been through it all. They've had the promises. They've had, hey, I was told on paper that this was what it is. And so it's different when you see a job description, from a company and what it is versus like, hey, I know the VP. Hey, I know the owner. Yep. Hey, I know the hiring manager, and so it kind of changes because it puts a little bit of accountability on me. Like, hey, I'm not going to put you somewhere where I feel like this company is just going to lay you off after this first job. Like I won't do business with them. And this is why.
This is your client that you enjoy working with, and they have to meet a certain bar, and you're
correct. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be time, and again, that's where it comes up to that balance of like not overextending yourself. There's going to be clients that call you that might not be a good fit for you, and so and that could be like, whether you're trying to make a placement, so you just say yes to everything, and then you're up till midnight trying to figure this out, and then you disappoint someone, and then you're that's just not good, right? And so
Yeah.
I feel like everything starts with my candidates completely, and that could be the reason why. From I was a GM for a long time and worked with people so directly. Had over 100 employees underneath me, and they all trusted me that I was going to do right by them. And so I feel the same way with these candidates when I get a text message, Nick, that says, "Hey man, this was such a blessing. Thank you so much. This was so easy. I got 2 job offers today and I got to pick the one I wanted." I mean, that is everything to me when you start, and I started saving those and clipping them, and that's what drives me is people. And so a lot of companies just, they just see them as a number or an outlet, but these guys trust me because I'm moving them from Texas to Arkansas. They're moving their families, like all of that. And so it's even for the companies to call me year after year. That is my goal, and I've already talked to a company that's like, "Hey, we're good placing this year, but I'm really excited to share with you some of the projects that we're expanding next year, and we can't do it without you," basically. And so again, meeting them where they're at, VPs texting you, owners, and hiring managers texting you is just different than other recruitment agencies that just send an email. So making that personal connection, I'm telling you, is definitely key.
Great. Good for you. It's funny. I worked at Best Buy for maybe 2 years. I was in the home theater department in sales, and I loved
That's
it.
awesome.
I loved it. I was kind of into tech and talking to people, and so that was a really good job.
That's so cool.
I kind of must have been 19 or 20, probably, or 20.
Yeah.
And just learning about all the new TVs and the innovation there, and so great organization, and that was probably a really great company for you to lead principles and scaled within that. That's a great company.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get them to allow me to recruit for them. So
there you go.
I'll let you know how that works out.
Good luck. That'd be a great client. Alex, talk to us a little bit about your current stack in terms of how are you discovering candidates or sourcing? Can you kind of walk us through maybe some of the tools or what you're using today?
Yeah.
What's new?
Yeah. So it's really everything. There's all kinds of different tools. One, you got to keep organized. And that was a learning curve for me as well, is like, how do you keep up with making 8 to 10 calls a day, plus your emails, plus your clients, and all of that. So we use a CRM called HubSpot. It's free. It's really easy to use. There's a bunch out there. But it's just something that I just, I ended up liking, and it was good for us. It was simple, easy to use. We use Excel a lot as well. And then obviously we use Honeit to kind of organize all our calls. That really helps with calendar invites. It syncs up to your Outlook. It's funny, as technology progresses, email seems to be the most stable one from 1995 or something, and it's still like a very crucial tool that I use every single day, obviously. So like Zoom meetings or Honeit calls or anything, Chrome extensions are they work really great with Outlook or Gmail for sure. So A, you need to keep organized and ready, and then B, just utilize what the tools are available to you. So there is this AI company, and what they do is they organize basically all your major applicant sources. So ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Monster, Craigslist. I mean, you name it. I mean, there's all kinds of different ones up there. Zap Info. Basically, it organizes, and you'd have to create an accounts with those individuals, and some costs, some subscriptions. But what you do then basically is you input exactly like these keywords that you're looking for. And so, like, for instance, if I have a company that calls me and they're needing a controller, an accountant, or anything like that, I could zone into a specific area and go, okay, they want candidates 100 miles away from Dallas, Texas. And so I put in keywords like controller or accounting or, you know, or superintendent with, you know, this much experience, and it'll basically source in a way of web scraping, but not necessarily. But you get all these candidates that have that same type of experience or have been in that industry. And you could create templates. You could go, hey, you know, this is the opportunity I have. If you're interested, you know, this is how you get a hold of me, all of that. So once you kind of get all that organized, you kind of, you know, spread a net, and you know, probably in the next, you know, I would say 3 to 10 days, you're going to get, you know, 20 or 30 candidates that say they're interested. And then you kind of go through that, you know, that first process of getting them scheduled, do the interview, get the qualifications, and then you end up, you know, pretty good with 2 to 4 candidates. And I'll tell you why that works is companies that just, you know, post jobs, you know, on Indeed, and things have gotten a little bit better, but, you know, they're just waiting for, you know, that diamond to come in the rough versus someone like me that goes out and finds the top guy, you know, that's already doing it, and go, hey, are you interested? This is what, you know, what this person, you know, is looking for and offering. And so if that piques their interest, then you make that conversation. So I'm already finding the diamonds at this point. And you know, it helps with, you know, ghosting or, you know, no shows and all of that, because they're already doing the same type of work.
Fantastic. And then what about, so you're sourcing, you've got your postings that are kind of automated, that's happening, people are applying, which is great. You're then doing your proactive sourcing to interesting candidates and getting them to bite. Yeah. Getting that short list together, talking to them. Talk to me about the presentation, like the candidate submittal. How are you, you know, I don't know if you ever compete with other agencies in terms of working on recs and things like that, or if you're typically retained or have a unique exclusive, but how do you differentiate yourself on the kind of the submittal? You know, are you forwarding resumes? What is your process there?
So let's say I get my candidate pool and all of that, and then as far as like competition or working with whoever, I really don't know if I do or not. I'm sure. You know, I work with a couple general contractors that actually are big enough. They work with 2 or 3 different recruitment firms to handle their needs. And I actually usually work with the recruiter. I'll tell you, probably 3 out of my 10, maybe even 40% of everyone I work with are already recruiters. And so, you know, it's funny. I usually break the ice there, since I used to be a recruiter for a firm. You know, it's kind of odd. I'll tell you at first, because, you know, everyone wants to do a good job. Everyone wants to go, hey, I can handle everything you throw at me. But I'll tell you, the best recruiters are the ones that are going, hey, my company needs help, and this is more than I can handle. So what I usually do is go, look, hey, you handle your day to day. Let me just help you out with, you know, your special projects or anything like that. And then you create that relationship with them, and they gain trust. And then that's how that partnership ends up coming. Because, you know, when your project manager comes in and goes, hey, I need these 3 projects taken care of, and, you know, this recruiter is just agreeing and saying, yeah, you know, you can let down your company, you can let down yourself, and then you're just overextending yourself again. And so, you know, it's really crucial to understand when you need help. And so, you know, I'll tell you, everyone I work with is absolutely fantastic. But as far as my process goes, Nick, so I initially qualify and record. I make these templates in Honeit. And so basically, I take what the client is looking for, and I really just dumb it down to me. That's really what I do, is I just dumb it down in complete layman's terms for me. I make sure I hit all their highlight points, whether it's qualifications or really what the job is. So I kind of de-fluff everything. You know, I'll tell you, a lot of companies love to fluff. So I really get to the core job description. And then I do a lot of research on that job description. If I don't know exactly what a controller does or in a specific industry, I do a lot of research on that project. And then when I'm talking to the candidate, I obviously get them on the phone and I create questions specifically contouring the highlights that the client wants basically to the question. So basically, if the job description says, 5+ years in accounting, one of the questions are going to be, hey, how many years in accounting are you experienced in?
Yeah.
And so like I make sure my questions match the core job description. And I think that's
Are you creating call guides? You're creating custom call guides for each rec?
Oh, yeah. Every single client gets their own. Every single position gets their own. It's really easy to do. You can always change it up if you need to answer more questions. I really love the start and stop feature. And if you forget to do any of that, you could go back and transcribe and figure out what the candidate said and then create a highlight on that. So again, it's really the work, the upfront work before you send it to the client. What I like to do is just give them their, the full profile, first name, last name, email, phone number, and then 5 to 6 points of the interview in my words of why I'm recommending it to them, and then the highlight link, and then their full resume. Okay. And that's pretty much
how many clips, how many audio highlights are you typically including? A few?
I'll tell you, I used to do just 2 to 4. Okay. And it was just like basic, tell me your experience. I would tell you probably only 3 to 4 minutes, if that.
Okay.
But I actually have had clients ask me to give more and more and more because they really love that feature. Some of them have never even heard of recording software like this. And so, I've gotten to a point where every single question I ask, I send them that whole highlight. To me, I just didn't want to waste their time. Like, like, hey, do you want to listen to a 15 to 25 minute interview? Sometimes it goes up to 45 minutes. And all of them are like, yeah, I do want to listen to all of it, and so I'm like, okay. And so like really now it makes my job easier because I don't have to go back and clip or anything like that.
Just every answer you capture on the fly, you then
pretty much just capture on the fly and I move on. Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Are you recording your intake calls when you kick off a new search, or are you recording those intake calls with hiring managers?
What do you mean?
Well, we've got a number of recruiters are using Honeit to also record, those intake calls with a new hiring manager. That's an interview too. You're just asking the hiring manager, hey, what's exciting about the role? What's unique about this particular role? And so you have a call guide for intake calls, essentially. And then as you're talking to, you record the whole thing and transcribe the whole thing, so you can reference it later. But then you can also share those sound bites internally with your, recruiters or sourcers who are helping you with the search. Or I don't know if you've seen the job preview feature, but some recruiters are going a step further and sharing a few sound bites on their, embedding those in their job descriptions or sharing those job preview links with candidates when they're reaching out to them on LinkedIn.
I actually did not know that. No, I do. So I do a lot of references. So I do record the references and, things like that, but not the intake. No.
Well, excellent. Alex, what, again, I love your story on the journey of kind of starting your own thing, I guess now after a year of being on your own, or a year and a half? Kind of what are some of the takeaways? What are some of the learnings? What would you have loved to know now, at the beginning that now? Would be the best way to protect that.
I would say, a lot of recruiters, get that it's okay when a placement doesn't work out. It's going to happen. I used to think that was like the end of the world when someone didn't answer me back, or I thought, we would go through the interview, job offer details and all of that. And it just didn't work out. And so I was always really hard on myself because I was like, man, I thought this was a sure thing. I thought this was a good fit. I thought, you said that you really enjoyed this and all of that. And so, in the industry, I'll tell you, as just recruiters, just peer recruiters, we take on a lot. And so it's just like anything else. Like, it's okay that, 20 to 30% of your your placements are not going to work out or not going to call you back or anything like that. So I was hard on myself in the very beginning, like, man, can I even do this? How do people do this every day? When, you have 8 to 10 calls and 2 of them answered and then said, hey, I'll call you back, or like, hey, yeah, let's book that appointment at 10:30, and then your 10:30, just goes straight to voicemail and you never hear from them again. And you're just kind of like, what happened? Are you okay? Almost, And so I would say, like, not to take that to heart as much as possible. Was a very big learning curve for me to kind of let things go, versus, staying up till midnight, just trying to find that next candidate over and over again. Like, it's okay to kind of shut down the computer and sleep and, do it all over again. So, I'll tell you, in the state of recruiting, pre and post COVID, like, being flexible, working from home has been great. You could work from the office. Like, for instance, my wife right now currently has COVID. And so we're just quarantining, but I haven't missed a beat. I forward my office calls directly to my cell phone. Like I was telling you, it's no longer 9 to 5 anymore, where, maybe in the morning I can spend time with my kids, because I know from 4 to, 8 p.m. today, I'm booked with interviews, and that's okay. And, I'll tell you, it's great to work when and where and how you want, but being able to be flexible for your clients and candidates, is going to be great. And just making sure that, I believe there's a shift, and so I believe that when companies that are flexible and being able to adapt from change can grow, and so there's no longer a blank box anymore. And so, if a company is okay with working remote 2 or 3 times a day because that person, can be more flexible to be with their family, and time is everything now. I'll tell you, after COVID, it seems like a lot more companies aren't being so traditional, where it was like, you have to be here. If you're sick, you get, these many points and you're gone. Now companies are like, hey, if you're sick, please stay home, work from home, we'll make it happen. And they're combining some of these roles, and they're understanding, what's great coming out of this pandemic, Nick, is they're understanding they can still be a very successful company with taking care of the employees the way they need to be taken care of, day to day. So, that's a really good feeling to see.
Fantastic. Well, Alex, I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm so excited to follow you on your journey with entrepreneurship, and coming from a great foundation from a Best Buy, I think that's really exciting. How you'll be able to incorporate some of those values and leadership principles as you start to scale your team and grow your recruiting team. Really excited to be a part of it. And here, if you need anything from our end, I'm always excited. I know we have another call scheduled to talk a little bit about feedback, but my phone's quickly going to text messaging of what we need to do to be able to add a few more points there.
All right.
Platform. So, Alex, thank you for joining us. I'm super excited about your journey, and happy to stay in touch.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
Take care.
Later.